This episode asks a very simple question. If someone secretly tapes you having sex, but you're bad at it, did you still get violated?
I'm feeling relaxed here. And I'm breathing good. There's the foreplay. And once again, I finished first.
Welcome to the Lost episode. We finally hit the infamous Lost episode. And the reason it's fascinating isn't just that Fox wouldn't air it, but the reason why it wouldn't air it. After the fallout from Her Cups Runneth Over from, 4 episodes ago, Fox was already bleeding sponsors and getting cold feet. And instead of backing away from the edge, this episode doubles down. It's not just about sex, it's about voyeurism, humiliation, and what happens when private shame becomes public spectacle. What's funny is that after 13 years, you expect something explosive, something shocking. And what you actually get is an episode that's uncomfortable in a much quieter way, because it turns sex into evidence, intimacy into litigation, and confidence into a punchline. And somehow, in true Married with Children fashion, it still manages to end on a Bundy victory of sorts. So with that in mind, welcome back to The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking the 10th episode of the 3rd season of Married with Children, titled I'll See You in Court. Written by Gene Baruch and Gene Romano, and directed by Jerry Cohen. Let's see how this one stacks up, starting with the episode overview. So we've made it to the famous Lost episode. They basically kept stripping this episode further and further down, to the point where the producers of the show were like, look, we can't air this episode like this. We refuse. So the suits just obliged them and didn't air it. Hence, this episode didn't end up airing until 5 years after the series ended in 2002 on FX. People were excited about it though, and this is what they were treated to after a 13-year wait. An episode all about sexual voyeurism. Now we open with Peggy wanting to watch Dr. Sandy, who's apparently the leading authority on sex and weather. Before she can watch the show though, the kids come downstairs complaining about not being able to get money from Al because he's taken his wallet into the shower with him. But Peg has a solution for them. You see, she's taken his actual wallet and bought a fake one. She also Xeroxed the money that was in his wallet and put it into the fake one. Now this is a lot to do for something that would work for what, a day? Maybe 2? It's a cute joke, but I just couldn't help thinking of the logistics of doing something like this. Either way, the kids are appeased when she gives them Al's money from his real wallet, and now she can finally watch her show. And we learn pretty quickly why she's so eager to watch. We find out that she's written into the show about Al's lack of libido. Now this is played for laughs, obviously, because it's Married with Children, but I felt kind of sad for Peggy. Anyway, Dr. Sandy is going to suggest doing it in different locations, like the living room, or the kitchen, or the bathroom, all of which doesn't seem too appealing to Peggy. But she's determined to get some, and tries to get Al to bang her on the kitchen table. And Al's reaction is to just sort of look at her dumbfounded. He's just like, what is happening? And he responds to her appeal for sex on the table by saying, I want to have a meal on the kitchen table. Learn to live without. I have. And somehow Peggy is undeterred by this. And Al continues to be against it, saying things like, how long have we been married? 40, 50 years? They've got 2 children. His job is done. And he heads off to work. My goodness, Al. What? Inexplicably now, Marcy shows up. Presumably she somehow knew that she needed to advance the plot. But Peggy takes the opportunity to ask Marcy's advice on convincing Al to give her some of that D. And Marcy's gonna be like, well, what's your usual seduction technique? And Peggy's like, well, usually I just put a bunch of chocolates on the floor that lead up to the bedroom. But I have to be careful to space them out because I don't want him to get full and then be too tired and fall asleep when he gets to the bedroom. And Marcy seems a little bit saddened by this, as was I watching it, but she's gonna be like, you know what? You gotta treat him like he's naughty. What men want is that they wanna feel like a naughty boy. They want degrading sex. Just go to a motel. Now, I'm not here to kink shame or anything, but I kind of doubt that that's what the majority of men want.
Not to you, but to everyone around you.
But maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments. But Marcy specifically suggests taking Al to the Hop On Inn, and Peggy does. In the next scene, we see Al and Peggy walking into the motel room, and Al's like, I know what's going on here. The chocolates in the car, the oil on my zipper. But Peggy is really trying here. She suggests doing it in the jacuzzi. But Al doesn't like jacuzzis because they blow air up his butt. He also asks Peggy, haven't you learned anything from having 2 kids? Nothing good comes from sex. So Peggy decides to try some smut. She puts in a porno and she actually gets pretty into it. Al seems to like it also until they realize that it's Steve and Marcy in the video. Now Al seems to think that's a bit of a turnoff, but Peggy's still ready to go. The next thing we know, Al and Peggy are telling a mortified Marcy and Steve about the tape. And I love the sarcastic laugh they give the Rhodeses after Al says, "Gee, if we had known you didn't know, we wouldn't have sprung this on you. I feel terrible." They're so messed up. They think it's hilarious until Steve points out if they taped Steve and Marcy, then they probably taped you too. And then that's when we get the very obvious old school commercial break. And when we come back from the break, the kids have shown up. And we get a really fun bit with the kids trying to watch the TV. And Al screams, "No!" Grabs the remote away from Bud and says that the TV is for adults. And then Bud notices that Marcy is blushing like a schoolgirl, which felt like an odd phase for a schoolboy to use. Whatever. Now the Bundy genes are gonna kick in because Marcy's gonna let on what's going on through embarrassment and anger, talking about how everybody now knows that she's the porn queen of Chicago or whatever she says. And then of course, Kelly and Bud blackmail her and Steve out of money, with Kelly getting the best line where she's like, "How about you with the dark secret?" But Steve's got an idea. He's gonna sue the motel for $1 million, which according to Peg means Al will get $5,000. Seems like an even split. But the thing is, Al has a different idea. He wants to get violent. He wants to take a bat to them. So what's funny here is that Peggy sides with Steve because she wants the money, and then Marcy sides with Al because she wants to let him beat them up and then have her torture them. But since the name of the episode is I'll See You in Court, I'm sure you can imagine which ideology won out. Next thing you know, they're at the trial, which is the fastest a $1 million has probably ever gone to trial. But Steve is actually doing the lawyering here. He's going to represent Marcy, himself, and the Bundys. And he convinces them all that it's the right thing to do because it's an open and shut case, and he doesn't want to give up 30% of their winnings to a lawyer. Now, Steve is so convinced they'll win because he's got the tapes to prove it. So he ends up giving the longest opening statement ever, which is shown through a montage of people being bored and falling asleep as he drones on and on about his family history in America through generations. And when he's done with that, he plays his and Marcy's sex tape, even though Marcy doesn't want him to, asking, is $1 million worth her dignity or whatever? And clearly it is. Now, this sex tape was apparently 4 hours long. And when it's done, he ends up getting a standing ovation from the jury, all while Marcy is dying from embarrassment. Now, you just knew the Bundy tape was going to be epically short, and even though the joke was exactly what you expected it to be, it was still funny. But where the episode really hits is when they put Al on the stand. So when they call out of the stand, Peggy asks him, "You did put on your clean underwear today, didn't you, Al?" And he just shakes his head and then lowers it dejectedly. It's really funny. And the defense lawyer is going to ask Al, "Why are you suing?" And he's like, "Well, my wife is sick of poverty, and she said I could have $5,000. Oh, and the outrage." So they play the tape of Al and Peggy again, and he narrates it. He's like, "All right, this is the part where I'm feeling good. Then there's the foreplay. Then very shortly after, and once again, I finish first." But when they put Peggy on the stand, they start questioning whether what happened between the Bundys was actually sex. And Peggy's like, "It's not sex to you, but it is to me." Then she says, "Is a crumb not a banquet for a starving person? Is a fig leaf not clothing for the naked?" Her losing it in this scene is just fantastic. They end up dragging her out of the courtroom with her yelling, "You can't do this to Al. He'll lose what little confidence he has. Don't listen to her, Al. Please, oh please don't give up." Oh man. In the end, the jury awards the Rhodeses $10,000 and gives the Bundys nothing because, according to the jury, no sex, no money. I mean, this show is nuts. But the show isn't going to end on another Bundy disappointment. Like Jordan, Al took it personally. All this talk about his not being good at sex, and he bangs Peggy behind the judge's bench for 2 hours. And when it's done, he asks, "Now was that sex?" And Peggy responds in the affirmative and says, "You know what, if there had been a camera on us, we would have won $1 million for it." Then another really obvious and yet still funny joke. As we pan up, we see a camera staring right at them. And that's how the episode ends. Let's find out how it ranked.
Oh, rank.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times the episode made me laugh. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score. But before I start, I just want to say if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. But without further ado, the first category is story. And this is a great story. The Rhodeses and the Bundys get filmed having sex without their permission and sue the motel that did it. That's a clear story arc with a lot of potential for depth. I gave it a 4.5. Next category is acting. Some of the acting is over the top, but purposefully so. I enjoyed everyone, even the kids. I think David Faustino did some of his best work so far in this one. Though the writers don't help him sometimes, giving him lines that no teenage boy would be saying. But either way, I gave it a 4. That brings us to dialogue. And it's a funny show. What's interesting to me though is that it's really kind of saved by Peggy's meltdown at the end. I mean, that was absolutely hilariously acted and written. But I felt like they could have done more with this story. So I gave it a 3.5. On to episode coherence. How did they get the tape of the Bundys? How did they not have sex? And how wasn't the privacy still violated? It's not a big deal because it's not the point, but it is goofy. And how did they go to trial so quickly? As far as everything else, it was perfectly fine. I gave it a 3.75. So that brings us to character relatability, and I found this really relatable. A mixture of violation and pride, of sadness and redemption. It was all really well done. I gave it a 4.5. So we had some pretty decent rankings here, so there shouldn't be any problem getting in the top 3 tiers. Decent laugh counter will put it up in probably the top 2, and it had a decent laugh counter. It got me 17 times. Most of that probably at the end. So this puts the episode total at a 37.25, which puts it in the Holy Grail. For the series, the average is now at a 33.62, which keeps it firmly in the I'd watch it again. And if you're ranking along with me, drop your scores in the comments. I'd be really curious to find out if we're aligned on this, and especially with the laugh counter. But thanks for listening and or watching. Check out my other Married with Children episodes, or any of my other sitcom or movie episodes on this channel. Remember to subscribe, comment, and like. You can find full up-to-date rankings on my website at therankpodcast.com, where you can also email me at john@therankpodcast.com. And if you really want to support the show, you can become a patron at patreon.com/therankpodcast. But I will leave you with this. This episode retroactively made season 1, episode 9, Peggy Sue Got Work, make sense. She hated working in the clock department because she didn't like being watched.
Oh, brother.
That's a clear story arc with a lot of potential for death.
Wait, what?
Death? Depth. Okay.